Chelsea have drawn 0-0 with Bournemouth. Chelsea have gone down to the Vitality on the south coast and have drawn 0-0. Now, the crazy thing here is there is a narrative that is being set that this is some sort of a shock result or deserving of a headline, or we need to talk about this game, this Chelsea result is huge. There is nothing unexpected about Chelsea drawing with Bournemouth. Chelsea are undoubtedly one of the worst teams in the league. We are pitiful. We are lost. We are rudderless. We are totally hopeless. There is no doubt about it that Chelsea are sleepwalking into a crisis. And let's be totally honest. Bournemouth, towards the end of that game, were gutted with a point. They were gutted. You could see the changes that they were making. They were going for the jugular. They fancied it. And I will be totally honest with you. I was watching that game. I was desperate for the 3 points. We needed the 3 points. I never felt for 1 second that we were going to get them. And by 10 minutes, 12 minutes to go, I was settling for a point. When Bournemouth were catching us on the break, when the billing was going through, I was terrified. And I genuinely could see it ending in a Bournemouth victory. So I was settling for a point. I was in the Reebok. I watched Frank Lampard take the ball around Jussi Jääskeläinen to win the league. I was in Munich. I watched Didier Drogba drag Chelsea by the scruff of the neck to a European Cup. And now I'm taking a point against Bournemouth. And there is no doubt about it that Chelsea are one of the most pitiful teams in the league. Now, this is fact. There is nothing I'm saying here that is emotional. There's nothing I'm saying here that is particularly controversial. Chelsea have drawn at Bournemouth, and there is nothing shocking in that. Fact. We were abysmal, and I think the question actually has to become not how bad Chelsea, or is it weird that Chelsea lost? The question has to become, why are Chelsea so bad? How is it possible that Chelsea can be this bad? What is going on at Stamford Bridge for it to be this bad? How is the feeling amongst the support this disjointed? How can this happen? Within what? How long has Todd Boehly been there? Everything has changed. He has managed to rip up a blueprint that was 20 years in the making. Chelsea were winning silverware since 1997. Chelsea have been a genuine contender for top-tier silverware. And that has gone. That has gone within a year. When did we stop believing? Tuchel left this time last year, didn't he? Tuchel was sacked, by the way, after 6 games. This start to the season already, Mauricio Pochettino is going to accrue less points in 6 games. I mean, he's already accrued less points than Tuchel was sacked for. That is how bad this start to the season has been. This has been totally joyless, totally painful. There has been one moment of joy, and that was against Luton. But let's face it, we are totally atrocious. I mean, we are incapable of scoring goals. I think we scored 5 goals all season. 5 goals all season. 5 goals in 5 games. 3 of those goals came against Luton. We have 5 points. 3 of those points came against Luton. Luton are on course to be one of the worst teams that the Premier League has ever seen. Luton are on course, in my opinion, to rival the Derby County point tally that will shock many. Derby County managed to accrue a pitiful points tally, and that felt like it was going to live forever. There are famous teams in the Premier League era that have just been totally caught out by the severity and the level of the Premier League. Swindon Town are an example. Derby County are an example. And I think this Luton Town are part of that. Chelsea's only victory has come against that Luton team. Chelsea, the only time that we've been a free-scoring team, the only time that we've scored more than once in a game, came then. We haven't scored for 2 games now in a row. 2 games in a row we haven't scored for. Those games, by the way, Forest at home. Do you know how bad Nottingham Forest are on the road? Do you know how difficult Nottingham Forest find it on the road? Joe Worrell keeping us at bay. Fantastic performance from him at Stamford Bridge. And there's some stuff going on in his personal life. It was amazing to see him do that. But Joe Worrell educating us about how to defend. And then we've gone down to Bournemouth. Did you see what Tottenham did to Bournemouth? Did you see what James Maddison did to Bournemouth just the other day? Chelsea didn't want James Maddison, by the way. He's too old. It's just atrocious. It really is atrocious. And I just don't see how we're going to get out of it. I will always talk about Todd Boehly. I know that Todd Boehly isn't the point of this conversation, but Todd Boehly is the answer to why it's going so wrong. Can you imagine a situation where Chelsea have assembled a team at such expense, and yet we arrive for a Premier League match with only 3 senior players on the bench. We have spent £1 billion and we have 3 senior players on the bench. There's a geezer on the bench I never heard of. Ronnie Stutter. Let's hope he becomes a household name one day. But I literally didn't know who he was. He's on our bench today. He's on our bench. We have spent well over £1 billion, and Ronnie Stutter is on our bench. Mauricio Pochettino didn't have any options to make. He didn't even make the 5 subs. We are just completely all over the place. The club looks so unhappy as well. Look at the players. The players just look so distraught all the time. I mean, Enzo Fernandez, we know he's a talent, but he just sulked about the place. He did nothing. He was totally anonymous today. Where was he? Like somebody like Enzo Fernandez playing in that midfield berth, he should be the player that is dragging us to a victory today. We need him to rise to the challenge. It's crazy to say, but Enzo Fernandez, I mean, if we play our first choice midfield, Enzo Fernandez is our senior midfielder. He'll be the player who's been at the club the longest. Fernandez, Caicedo, Lavias, Enzo Fernandez is a senior player. This is ludicrous, isn't it? It's absolutely ludicrous. Where's the 28-year-old to drag us to victory? Where are the geezers in the team who know what it's about, who will not accept losing or dropping points at Bournemouth? They just won't accept it. We don't have any players like that. Enzo Fernandez, fairly anonymous. I mean, Thiago Silva, he seemed to be in some sort of state of irritation constantly with his mates. I mean, Mikhailo Mudryk, I've seen some praise for him on social media. I mean, my good friend Olivia Bazaglo seems to think that he had a good game and she can see the positive. I rate her work and I think that she talks an awful lot of sense about Chelsea. She's a good friend of mine. I disagree. I haven't really seen anything in Mudryk. Nothing. You know, he had a burst of pace early on, didn't he? There was nothing there. I'm really starting to be concerned about Nicholas Jackson. I liked him in pre-season, but I feel like that miss against Forest, I think it's affecting everything else because his build-up play and all that looks so good in pre-season. But it's really starting to worry me. I mean, I thought Raheem Sterling did okay. Rizzler paper away from scoring, wasn't he? Conor Gallagher was busy and lively and captain and up for it. But some of his passes just slightly wayward. However, he did show some sort of, just some drive, some genuine enthusiasm. So, I mean, people will talk about the injuries, won't they? But irrespective of that injury list, the pressure is building. As I mentioned, we have won 5 games this season. Pochettino has already amassed less points than Tuchel was sacked for in less games. So I just don't know where we're going to go from here. But I think that we are truly abysmal. And if our board think that throwing more money at this is the answer, they are going to be so mistaken. Football isn't like that. Some things in life, you can throw enough money at a problem and the problem will go away, but that is not football. Football is a game of nuance. It's a game of emotion. It's a game of romance. You cannot buy those things. They aren't for sale. They aren't quantifiable. There isn't a currency available to sell. Passion, aggression, determination. You cannot buy winning. It doesn't exist. It is a quality that is innate. It's in the heart. And we have a team that are not that. We have a team that are not winners. We have such a big squad. I just don't know what we're going to do. I really don't. It's atrocious. And, I mean, we're averaging a point a game. We are. It's horrible to say, but our season is effectively over before it's begun. We are 14th in the league. And we go into some very tricky fixtures. You know, we've got Aston Villa next. There's no reason why Aston Villa won't be looking at that thinking that they can get something against us. And then after Villa, it gets really tricky. I think we've got a couple of London derbies. And then, it genuinely fills me with dread. Go after Burnley, it then goes Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle. Oh, God, this is atrocious, isn't it? Oh, I'm off in a bit.